It's Thursday, May 28th, and this is now on HNN.
So we watch as we move each step of the way.
Time to make those hair appointments, Oahu. Governor Ige has approved a broader city timeline for reopening medium-risk activities.
Let's make sure we don't regret what we've done.
The United States passes a grim milestone, marking 100,000 deaths from COVID-19. I'm Naomi Ruckham with the new guidelines from the CDC to stop the spread of the virus.
Of so much built-up anger and sadness.
Developing right now, looting and fires rock Minneapolis after a man dies in police custody.
This is just opening up an old wound.
As the race for Honolulu's mayor heats up, though without the typical flurry of campaign events, a political newcomer and a longtime politician have already taken early leads in the polls. Coming up on This Is Now.
Good afternoon, you're watching This Is Now. The time is now 12:19. Thank you for joining us from the Digital Center. I'm Jonathan, your director-producer, alongside Allison, who's in for Ashley today. We want to get you started with the breaking news from the Department of Health.
Hawaii is reporting 3 new COVID-19 cases today, all on Oahu. It's a slight uptick in cases that comes 2 weeks after retailers reopened on the island and after a week-long streak of 0 new cases. The 3 new positives bring the statewide total to 647. Meanwhile, 604 people statewide have been released from isolation, while at least 83 of those people required hospitalization. 17 people in Hawaii have died of COVID-19 since the pandemic began.
Well, Allison, even with those new cases, the coronavirus curve for the state's remaining relatively flat. So many of us are wondering when the inter-island travel will reopen. We asked Lieutenant Governor Josh Green about that this morning on Sunrise. He predicted it would be open by now, but here's really what he had to say, and I'll let him explain it.
Well, because I don't get to make that call. Though I feel strongly that we can open safely and we should open, and ideally on the 1st of June, which is a Monday, or this week, we would be totally safe to do it. They're just very cautious. We've never had a global pandemic before, and people are skittish about opening. You also have a lot of cooks in the kitchen throwing caution into the governor's ear.
Green says case numbers are low enough in the state that he thinks inter-island flights can resume. We also asked him about tourism and why the state has failed to provide the industry with a reopening plan.
Well, there is a plan. We just suck as communicators. Ultimately, look, first phase, awesome. Very few people died. Second phase, getting dangerous that the economy's not starting, and that's where the frustration lies.
Green says he is frustrated with the pace of the reopening plan, but added he doesn't want to offend anyone.
Governor David Ige has approved a broader city timeline for reopening medium-risk businesses. Water parks, pools, campgrounds, shooting and archery ranges are permitted to open today, but a city spokesperson tells us most of its facilities will actually reopen Friday, June 5th. That includes the Honolulu Zoo, Cocoa Head Shooting Complex, city archery ranges, People's Open Markets, and pools for lap swimming only. Sea Life Park can also reopen, but the park says it's not ready just yet. Wet n Wild Water Park in West Oahu will welcome back guests tomorrow. Oahu barbershops, hair and nail salons, and other beauty operations are also allowed to reopen tomorrow. So can tattoo parlors. Chelsea Davis has more on that.
We're opening Friday.
The owner of Loyalty Tattoo in Kailua says his phones have been ringing nonstop.
Every one of my answering machines are completely full and customers want to get tattooed.
He says tattoo artists already take cleanliness and sanitation very seriously.
Tattoo artists are the biggest germ freaks I've ever met.
They plan on dedicating even more effort in order to reopen in the pandemic.
I have 2 workers in here that are going to be doing nothing but cleaning. That's all their job is to just clean all day long.
Mayor Kirk Caldwell says as long as medium-risk businesses reopen with modifications following CDC guidelines, Honolulu residents will be okay.
Let's be a little careful. Let's make sure we don't regret what we've done, and so we watch as we move each step of the way.
Reed says customers will be required to fill out a COVID-19 health screening questionnaire. Everyone, artists and customers, are required to mask up. Artists have an extra level of protection.
We're going to be using shields like this over our face while we're tattooing.
He says they will probably be able to take only half as many customers because of social distancing requirements, but they're excited to be back in action.
We're looking forward to Friday.
Other professions allowed to resume operation this Friday include barbers, hairdressers, nail technicians, and estheticians. Chelsea Davis, Hawaii News Now.
The number of people in the U.S. who have died from the coronavirus has hit 100,000, and that number continues to rise. As hundreds of thousands of Americans mourn those that are lost, there is now a new push to make mask wearing mandatory. Naomi Ruckham reports from New York.
On the floor of the House of Representatives, Speaker Nancy Pelosi called for a moment of silence.
In remembrance of over 100,000 Americans who have passed away from the COVID-19 virus.
It took less than 4 months for COVID-19 to take more American lives than the Vietnam and Korean wars combined, and experts believe the real number is likely higher.
I cannot believe that this is what we are going through.
In Pennsylvania, State Representative Brian Sims took to Facebook Live to rail against Republican House leaders for allegedly concealing that a Republican lawmaker had tested positive.
How dare you? How dare you put our lives at risk? How dare you put our families at risk?
And the Speaker for the Illinois General Assembly has called on everyone who attended last weekend's special session to get tested or quarantined for 2 weeks. An employee at the arena where they met tested positive for the virus. Now, new research published in the journal Science warns 6 feet between individuals might not be enough, and that aerosol particles can accumulate and remain infectious in indoor air for hours. Increasing the flow of outdoor air and ensuring proper ventilation systems are some of the new CDC guidelines for offices that may be reopening. The CDC also wants employers to require workers to wear face coverings and prohibit touching of any kind. Today, New York's governor promised to sign an executive order authorizing businesses to deny entry to anyone not wearing a mask or face covering.
That store owner has a right to protect themselves. That store owner has a right to protect the other patrons in that store.
Today, the U.S. Department of Transportation announced it will distribute over 15 million cloth masks to America's transportation workforce, including people who work on subways, trains, and at airports. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News, New York.
More than 2 million people filed for unemployment benefits across the nation last week. Here are the latest numbers in Hawaii. The state unemployment office says more than 63,000 claims are currently in process. So far, another 188,000 have already been processed. 139,000 have been paid. Meantime, we're told close to 50,000 claims have been denied. This month alone, the state has paid out over $544 million. It's paid out another $173 million to self-employed and gig workers. Almost 37,000 applications have been processed through the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program.
Want to get to a developing story. The mayor of Minneapolis has announced new efforts to restore peace and security after 2 days of unrest. Jeff Begays has more.
As fires burned in Minneapolis Thursday, the mayor called for peace while acknowledging the reasons behind the unrest.
What we've seen over the last 2 days is the result of so much built-up anger and sadness.
The violence was sparked by Monday's death of George Floyd, who could be seen on video with a police officer's knee on his neck for several minutes while he struggled to breathe.
We feel as if there was a knee on all of our collective necks. A knee that says black life does not matter.
Most protesters were peaceful, but some clashed with police. Looters broke into nearby businesses and some set buildings on fire. The city's fire department says it responded to around 30 fires overnight. There are several structures that have been destroyed, not just this one that you see behind me. There are several in this area, and in fact, what we're told is that this was low-income housing that was being built. I don't know if the people who did this knew that. But that is the result of what happened overnight here. Among those demanding justice in Minneapolis Thursday, the Reverend Al Sharpton. Sharpton was joined by the family of Eric Garner, who died after a New York City police officer put him in a chokehold while arresting him in 2014.
This is just opening up an old wound, pouring salt into it.
We're going to make sure that this prosecution goes down.
The mayor has asked the governor for help and authorized a unified command structure to bring in additional resources to stop the violence. Jeff Pegues, CBS News, Minneapolis.
And this just in today, the Boston Marathon has been canceled due to the pandemic. It's the first time in its 124-year history that the race has been called off. Organizers say the marathon will be held virtually. Runners can take part in the virtual run anytime between September 7th and the 14th. The marathon was initially scheduled for April 20th and postponed until September, but Boston's mayor just announced the race will be canceled altogether.
The primary election for Honolulu's next mayor is a little more than 2 months away, but a Hawaii News Now Civil Beat poll shows many voters aren't ready to choose a favorite. 21% of Oahu voters say right now the candidate they would most likely support is former Hawaii News Now General Manager Rick Blangiardi. Former Congresswoman Colleen Hanabusa has 15%.
And so that's really the choice I think voters are going to be faced with. Do they want someone who has business experience, or they want someone who has government experience? But I think they want experience, so that helps Blangiardi and Hanabusa.
Businessman Keith Amamiya has 10%, followed closely by Councilwoman Kimberly Pine. Businesswoman Chun James has 3%. But the race is far from over, with 12% saying they don't support any of the announced candidates and 30% are undecided. That means 42% of voters are available to boost a candidate or fuel a late comeback.
Which is going to make the campaign for this race a really interesting thing to watch, because both the campaign period is going to be very short and voting is going to start earlier than it normally does because of mail-in voting.
Tomorrow, we'll take a look at the race for Honolulu prosecutor. And Hawaii's healthcare providers just received a massive donation of surgical masks from generous donors with good connections. On the job, it's mandatory.
And every one of our healthcare providers is wearing a mask nonstop throughout the day.
And with demand for personal protective equipment at an all-time high,
here it is.
It's a shipment that was vital to Hawaii's healthcare system. This is what 752,000 surgical masks looks like. Starting tomorrow, they'll be distributed to hospitals, clinics, and first responders across the state.
So this is these are 3-ply masks.
These can be used for almost everything.
This is just half of a $1 million order paid for entirely by donations through a project spearheaded by a Kauai man.
It's not something you can click a button and deliver these products overnight. It does take some time to not only produce them when there's global demand that's overwhelming, but to get them delivered, and the logistics is challenging.
With the help of the lieutenant governor, the tech company's CEO connected donors with a reliable manufacturer in China, then used his contacts to have the masks shipped to Hawaii.
We were able to raise funds from Kamehameha Schools, Hawaii Community Foundation, the Atherton Foundation, so that we can get this product to the front line as fast as possible.
We were able to know that we had a source that was completely legit, because we didn't want to lose $1 or even 1 penny of people's humanitarian funds.
Green says he's working with the Coast Guard to get the supplies to the neighbor islands. Both Maui and Kauai will receive a portion of the shipment later this week. Now, if you'd like to help with the purchase of more masks, just contact Hawaii Pacific Health. You know, I was speaking to folks at Kapiolani Medical Center yesterday, and they said before COVID-19, those surgical masks, they were going for 9 cents a piece.
Oh, I know that.
So much cheaper.
Yeah, skyrocketing prices there. Good to see another example of how people are reaching out and helping out in this effort as well. We want to switch gears here just a little bit. We're going to go to a checking in segment that Ashley filed just the other day with a local musician. Let's see his stay-at-home story.
All right, today we are checking in with Alex Kawakami. He is a local musician here in Hawaii. Hey, Alex.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good. So tell us how the pandemic has impacted you and, others in the industry.
To be honest, I think music was one of the hardest hit because live music is always around people. So every musical artist any engineer, lighting, sound, everybody was affected, and pretty much 100% of business was lost. The reason it kind of scares me is because I'm not sure when it'll come back. And I think that's with a lot of things though with this whole pandemic is the unknown. But for music, you know, to make music fun and exciting and energetic, it takes people and people hanging out close with each other. So it's been tough, and I know a lot of the musicians in the industry are struggling right now. So we're just trying to find our own space, play as much as we can online, but at the same time, just hope that live music comes back sometime soon.
Talk about how you guys have adapted. I think you were one of the first people I've seen to kind of go live in your backyard.
Yeah, it was because there was nothing to do. I was right in the beginning. I never really live streamed before, so in the beginning, I just decided to do it, and I knew people were at home, but I didn't realize so many people were looking for something to watch and something new to do. So when I started it right in the beginning of this stay-at-home order, it was refreshing because I got to connect with people who, you know, on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, who I normally wouldn't talk to. And then as this went along, I just kept doing it, and I saw other musicians continue to do it as well. And now there's a whole, I'll say like an online industry of virtual gigs that people are doing. It's one of the ways that musicians are able to stay afloat right now. So
I know you're probably reaching this whole new audience that you haven't had before, but you know, you were saying like there's nothing like a live audience. How is that different?
Oh, it's way different. When I first did it in my backyard, it was so awkward because you finish a song and it's just complete silence. And, you know, it's even if there's one or two people in the crowd, you still get that energy. And for me, I had to tell my wife and my son, who is 1.5 years old, I was like, you guys got to make noise because it's so awkward when the music stops. You gotta make it feel like I'm doing something. There's nothing like playing for actual crowds, and, you know, in a restaurant, in a bar, on stage, for concerts. There's something special about it. So it's different, but it's the only thing we can do right now. So we just got to deal with it.
How do you think, you know, this pandemic is going to change live music going forward? I mean, it's probably going to be a while before we see big concerts start up again.
Honestly, I don't think it looks great for the music industry as a whole. And I'm really hoping I'm wrong. But before this pandemic, music in restaurants or bars were always one of the things that if the restaurant wasn't doing well, their financials weren't well, it was the first thing cut, or budgets were cut, or, you know, music nights were just eliminated. And that was before this pandemic. And, you know, looking forward, even we don't really know how restaurants are going to open. We don't know how bars are going to open. Even live venues like the Shell or Blaisdell or Hawaii Theater, I don't know how they're going to operate. And for a lot of the musicians here, their livelihood is through the restaurants and bars. And if some of them were having trouble before this pandemic and weren't able to continue the music, I feel like a lot of restaurants and bars might be gun shy to bring back music. I'm hoping that people will see that music is something that everybody needs, and things like streaming online on Facebook, I think that's just proving it right now that this is what people need. They need music. They need something to keep them happy.
Yeah, I know. Aside from the venues, I know a lot of big events that might take a while to come back. I think last time I saw you, we were doing the Hawaii Food and Wine Festival together. Yeah. Who knows when those kind of things will happen again.
Conventions that come here, big businesses used to, you know, have their retreats here. And that's another part of the music business that I think a lot of people don't realize. And, you know, that part of it, who knows? I mean, it's crazy. I know it's not going to come back as strong as it was before, but I hope it slowly builds and people have confidence that live music is something that adds to that atmosphere.
And you're working on something special for mental health. Talk about this project and this event you're having this week.
We're going to do a fundraiser on Friday from 6 to 7:30. We'll be live streaming on Facebook.com/Alex Kawakami, Instagram @Alex Kawakami. It'll be streaming all over the place, and I'm sure everybody's going to share it. I hope everybody shares it. And we're going to try to raise money for Mental Health America. It is Mental Health Awareness Month. So It's just fitting, and I know a lot of people are struggling right now, so it's something that's very important. And Rainbow Drive-In and Highway Inn have already agreed to match $500 each of donations. So if we get that amount of donations, $1,000, those two match it. So it's really cool, and it's it's a community coming together, which right now is very important.
Alex Kawakami, thank you so much for joining us, and don't ever stop playing.
Awesome, thanks.
All right, folks, are you ready for some more positive news? It's time for the good medicine, right, Allie?
Jonathan, I got a really good one today. A Hawaii girl is set to share the field with the defending Super Bowl champs. Give me a C for a big congratulations to Catherine Taruya, the newest Kansas City Chiefs cheerleader. The team posted a video of their 2020 cheer squad today. The 24-year-old is from Kahala and is a former Miss Hawaii, winning the pageant back in 2017. You know, she's smart too. She studied dentistry at the University of Missouri Kansas City School of Medicine. Her new title on the squad is now Rookie Ambassador. And up next, a musical tribute to honor Hawaii's class of 2020.
Now we're hidden in your hearts. The story is intending. This is where it starts. Whispered on the wind, the fairy tale begins.
The virtual performance is by 51 actors, singers, and dancers, all with Hawaii ties. The former castmates from the Pidgin English comedy Happily Ever After performed this song. You can watch the full video on our website, hawaiinewsdown.com. We could leave the pigeon to them, not me.
And I'm not going to try to sing today, folks. I've been known to from time to time, so that's not going to happen today. All right, guys, that's it for This Is Now. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Allie, for joining us as well. Loved having you here in the Digital Center. We got a press conference coming up 1:30 with Governor Ige. Going to stay tuned to H&N's digital platforms for that. Until then, stay safe, everyone.